Alright guys, so here's Unit 3, Lesson 4. We're actually breaking Lesson 4 into 3 videos. At the end of this video you'll have a paper practice, then you'll go on and do the next 2 videos for this lesson. So the first part of this, 4a, what we're doing right now, is actually a review of algebra. It's 100% stuff you learned last year in algebra. That's all we're doing. We're reviewing y equals mx plus b. So for those of you who remember it, this will be really easy. For those of you who don't, this will be a nice refresher, and you guys can all be on the same page when we start 4b. So, hopefully you remember y equals mx plus b. This is the slope-intercept form. It is an equation for a line. So a line can be drawn on a graph, but there's also a mathematical equation that can represent that line. So it's kind of like looking at a line on a graph is one way of saying it, and then looking at the mathematical equation is another way of saying it. And so one beautiful thing about this is it's really easy to go back and forth if you know what to look for. If you can calculate the m, which is the slope, and you can find the b, which is the y-intercept, or where the line crosses the y-axis, then you can write your equation or draw your line. You can easily go back and forth either way. So when asked to write a linear equation or to graph a line, you need 2 pieces of information. You need the slope, which is m, and you need the y-intercept, which is b. And we don't know why it's called M and B. I honestly don't. One rumor is that the M stands for the French word for monter, which is to climb, because when you're counting out a slope on a graph, it looks like you're climbing stairs, monter, l'escalier, which is to climb stairs. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at this equation, and how do we find the M and the B? Well, it's easy. What you do every time, this is what I do every time, is I write y equals mx plus b on the bottom. The y's line up, the m's line up. What number's in the m spot? Oh, -2. I'm going to turn that into -2 over 1, because if you remember from algebra last year, to use your slope, you have to have an up-down number, which is the top number, and you have to have a horizontal number, an across number, a run number, which is going to be the 1 on the bottom. Any whole number, if you put 1 underneath it, it does not change the value, right? -2 divided by 1 is -2. So that's my slope. That's how many I count up and over to get from one point to the next. And then my b is in the b spot. My y-intercept is 4. It's in the b spot. Okay? So that one's easy. Now let's look at number 2. I put y equals mx plus b on the bottom, but they don't line up. It doesn't say y equals. I have to get y by itself before this will work. My slope is not 2. My y-intercept is not 4. I have to get this to say y equals. So I'm going to cross this off, and I'm going to solve for y. So I write down my equation. I want to move my x to the right because I want to get y by itself. So I subtract 2x. My 2x's cancel. I end up with 2y equals -2x plus 4. I cannot combine these two terms. They are unlike terms. I cannot move them. And I still don't have y by itself. Okay? So I'm going to divide, excuse me, everything by 2. My 2's cancel out. I get y equals -2 divided by 2 is -1. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Now y equals mx plus b. It's in the y equals state. So the number in the m spot is -1. The number in the b spot is 2. And now you're going to do these 2 problems. Okay? So the first question you're going to answer is, why do I write it in the x? Why do I always write it with the x term first? Like, why didn't I put 4 minus 2x over here? The reason is I always want it to have my x term first, so I know where my m is, and then my b term is second. So remember, m is always with x, right? Your slope is always with the x. It's right next door to it. But if I keep it in order, it's easier for me to pull that information quickly. For this one right here, to solve this one, you're going to get y by itself, you need to divide everything by 3. Okay? And for number 4, you're going to have to get rid of your x first, then divide by -3, right? You're going to end up with -3y equals something. Divide by -3, and it's not going to be a pretty y-intercept. You're not going to have a whole number. Okay, next one. So we figured out how to look at my equation and pull out my m and my b. Now I'm going to go the other way. If I tell you m and b, how do I write my slope? Easy. Y equals mx plus b. I'm just going to substitute the m and b into m and m to b. What they tell me m is 2, I put 2 in where the m is. They tell me b is 6, I put 6 in where the b is, and I'm done. over here, y equals mx plus b. If I put mn for 3, or 3n for m, sorry, right, and negative 4n for b, I end up with this. So now you're going to do these next two on your own. Okay, put the mn, the number n for m, and the number n for b. All right, now it's going to get a little tricky. Now we're going from, instead of going from an equation to a line, I'm showing you the line, and now you have to tell me what the equation is. So again, the two pieces of information that you need are your slope and your y-intercept. Easiest thing to find is your y-intercept. To find your y-intercept, you find where the line crosses the y-axis, and it's crossing here at 1. So I know b is 1. So there's my first piece of information. Now I need to find my second piece of information. I need to find two good points, and I'm going to count from one point to the next point to find my slope. Well, let's pick 2 points that are right on the crosshairs. I don't want this point right here. That's not where the two coordinate points or the two coordinate lines are meeting up. So I'm going to pick this point here, this 1, 1, this, I'm sorry, 0, 1, and I'm going to look along my line to find another good point. It looks like this is a pretty good point right here, 3, 3. So I'm going to pick that point, and now I count up. So I'm going to count up 1, 2, and then I count to the right 1, 2, 3. So my slope is 2 over 3. I went up 2, it's positive, and I went right 3, that's another positive. So my slope is 2 over 3. Okay, you don't need to use intercepts every time. I'm not going to use the point 0, 1 and this intercept right here because this is not a good point. We get in the habit of using intercepts. Don't always use intercepts. They're not always the best point to choose. You want the point that's right on the cross, right on the crosshairs. Okay, so let's do number 6 together again. So we're going to find where the line crosses the y-axis, and here it crosses at -2, so my y-intercept is -2. Now I need to find my 2 points. So I'm going to use the same, the intercept point. And then I found another point way up here. My intercept here isn't any good, so I'm going to keep going up. Here's a good point. So now I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I went up 5, and now I'm going left 1, 2, 3. So I went up 5, so that's positive, but I went left 3, so that's negative. If I go left, it's negative. If I go right, it's positive. Okay, and now you guys are going to find your m and your b for number 7. Okay? All right. Now we're going to move on, and I'm going to show you how to do this in Desmos. So we've learned how to do it when we're given the information. We've learned how to figure out what m and b are if we pulled it off the line. We've learned how to look at a line and find our slope and our y-intercept. And now we're given 2 points, and we have to figure out what our line is. So we're going to use Desmos for this, and here are the directions right here. So you're going to have these notes in front of you. Okay, and I'm going to show you how to do it on Desmos. Okay, so we're following the directions on the sheet. You're going to click on this little plus right here, and you're going to go down to table. Okay, and then I'm going to put my points in exactly the way that they were given to me. So my sheet said, my notes say the point 2, 1 and the point 4, 2 are on the line. And I can see them here on my graph. Now I'm going to go down here and I'm going to type the special equation in. Instead of an equal sign, make sure that you put that squiggle right there. Okay, and what that does is it tells Desmos to pull the information off the table. Oh, look at this. There's my slope, 0.5, and there's my y-intercept, 0. See at the very bottom where it says m equals and b equals? So I can even check this out. Look, if I say y equals 1/2 x plus 0, I end up with the exact same line. Look at that. I can go to this line, and they're exactly the same. So I've used Desmos to find my line. So I'm going to put on my answers, on my notes, y equals 1/2 x plus 0. Okay? So go ahead and do that now. And then I'm going to go back. Let's do the second one together. Let's make sure we know how to do this. Okay? So the second one says, I'm going to click on the plus sign, go to my table. Now I'm going to put in for number 9, I'm going to put in 1, 3. That was my first point. And then my second point is 3, -1. So if I read this, x is 1, y is 3. X is 3, y is -1. There are my 2 points. I know it's going to be a negative slope because it's pointing the way it's pointing, my pattern. And now I'm going to do this. y1, squiggle, not equals, mx1 plus b. And look at that. It gave me my equation. So now in my notes, I'm going to say y equals -2, which makes sense. I could tell it was a negative slope, negative 2x plus 5. Oh, and it lands right on top of my points. So that's what I write on my notes for number 9. Now you're going to do number 10 in Edpuzzle and give me the answer, and number 11 in Edpuzzle and give me the answer. Okay, so if you guys are feeling overwhelmed, I'm just going to throw this one out there. You theoretically learned all of this last year over an entire unit. This was 1 unit in Algebra. So this is more of a refresher. We're assuming that you know this. If you are confused and you do not understand what we're talking about, please, please, please grab us and we can go over slope and y-intercept, okay? The last way that you can find this information, right, we've done it being given the line, the equation. We pulled out the information, we were given the information, and we wrote the equation. Then we looked at a graph and wrote the equation that way, and then we were given 2 points, and we used Desmos to write the equation. Now, we're given a point in the slope, okay? We're going to do the same thing, but you just have to do an extra step, okay? So I'm going to plot my point 2, 1. This isn't an intercept, it's nothing. It's just a point given to me on the line. Now I'm going to use my slope, which is really 3 over 1. What I'm doing is I'm going to count from the point I was given. I'm going to count up 3, and then I'm going to count over 1. And you know what? I just realized I did this wrong. Miss Barnett, you did it wrong. It should have been the other way. Okay, so even teachers make mistakes. I fixed it. So the original point is still 2, 1. I still go up 3, but now I'm going to go to the right one because it's positive, and I made a mistake. I apologize. So I go up 3 over 1. So my new point is at where x is 3 and y is 4. Okay, so now I have 2 points. I have 2, 1, and 3, 4. So I'm going to do the exact same thing I did before. I go to my table, I put in the point that they gave me, and then I'm going to put in the point that I found. And I'm going to do the same thing. Now on the next line I do y1 squiggle, not equals, mx1. Don't forget those little sub ones at the bottom too. And they tell me my slope is 3 and my y-intercept is 5. So now on my notes I can write down that my equation is 3x minus 5. And it's exactly the same. Look, if I click here, I get my blue line, which is my points, right? It goes right through my points. It's perfect. So my line is 3x minus 5. So you're going to do the last problems on your notes, okay, on Edpuzzle. So you're going to do number 14 on Edpuzzle, and then you're going to do the last 2 on your on Edpuzzle. All right, then you're going to do your paper practice, then move on to 4B. Do not go to 4B until you've done your paper practice.